Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Reagan Fredrickson, and I am the Online Ministry Director here at Harvest Time Bible Church. The Online Ministry Director is responsible for all of the online content of Harvest Time. So if you're on Facebook or you see our website or our app, that is all the content that I curate. I also am in charge of live streaming the Sunday morning services. And welcome to Digital Missionaries. This is a series that I started maybe back in November. We took a little hiatus for Christmas. I had a couple Christmas lessons to talk about, but I wanted to get back to the roots of how to be a digital missionary. Last time I talked about 5 ways that you can be a digital missionary on your social media platform. And now I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into that. One of the things we talked about in that video was how to share your God story. So I wanted to unpack that just a little bit more and go deeper, especially considering that Dalmas's sermon last Sunday was about talking to the woman at the well, or God talking to somebody who is outside the faith and bringing them in, which is exactly what we are called to do as digital missionaries. So as members of the church, we talk a lot about sharing our testimonies or witnessing to other people. And I think those terms get used so often in the church context that we have kind of forgotten or lost the meaning of what they actually are. So let's go a little bit deeper into those. So a testimony is often used in like courtroom proceedings, and it is the statement or declaration of a witness under oath or affirmation. We also use the term witnessing, and a witness, according to dictionary.com, is to be present at an occurrence as a formal witness, spectator, bystander, etc. So if we are witnesses to God and give testimonies, that is basically us saying that we are being as truthful and honest as we can, and we are reporting about the things that we have seen in our lives that is evidence that God is alive and working. So that means that if you are a follower of Christ, you are also a witness to his goodness. That always brought a lot of apprehension to me because I thought, I'm not qualified to talk to other people about Jesus, and I don't know if they'd even believe what I said. God calls us as we are. You know, you don't need a fancy Bible degree. You don't need to know how to public speak to give your testimony. Think back to the time whenever you decided to follow Christ. Somebody was there and they gave their testimony to what they witnessed God do in their lives, and that ultimately convinced you that God existed. So, what convinced you that Jesus is alive today? That's all witnesses are called to do. They are called to the stand to merely say, this is what I've seen. We're not called to force a verdict. At that point, after we report what we have seen, it's out of our hands. You know, we're not the witness, the jury, and the judge. We can't talk about what we've seen, force God to move in their lives, and then force them to believe in God. Again, that's something that I really thought I needed to do. And my biggest fear, I think, was, what if I tell them and they still don't believe? And that's where I've really had to pray about it and think about it. It's God's job to call them. It's our job to tell people what we've seen, but it is his job to call them and make it personal to them. My hardest hurdle in witnessing to others was trusting that God was going to actually call them and finish the work, you know? And I think that really boiled down to, I didn't trust that my God loves my friends as much as I did. And that's kind of a sobering thought. Like, I really thought it was my job to save them. And that's such a bad theology to go for. 'Cause in the end, I didn't die for my friend's sins. You didn't die for your friend's sins. It was God who died for all of us. And so if he died for my sins, he died for their sins. And I guarantee you, the God that loves us to death loves your friends more than you love them, and loves my friends more than I love them. And so if I care about their sanctification and their salvation, I guarantee you God cares 20 times more. So God cares about our friends. He sees them, and I guarantee you He is reaching out to them. There are so many other conversations that your friends are having with other people that is pointing them to God. They are seeing Facebook posts that you aren't even aware of, and you're just a piece of the puzzle that's going to point them towards God. Because in the end, it's God working in them, not us trying to save them. So when we do our part and we share our God stories, just know that we are free to do so. It's not our job to convince them and save them. It's merely our job to report joyfully the things that God has done in our lives. And I don't know about you, but that makes witnessing to other people so much easier, because I know I'm not carrying the burden by ourselves. So again, we're going to talk more about sharing our God stories in another week. But for now, I'm just going to leave you guys with a question. As you're thinking about how to share your God stories, just ask yourself, what convinced you that God was real? Write that on a piece of paper, write that on a Word document, and come back to it later, because that is the foundation of how you shape the rest of your God story. We'll see you guys next time, and we'll talk more about it later.